I did a video at the weekend, and it didn't really turn out so well, but the subject was kind of important, so I've decided to just speak to it again, maybe in a bit of a different way, I don't know. The conversation that I was, talking about was the relationship between the unconditional nature of us and our deepest, and the conditional way, or the conditionality that we adopt and assume and take on in this existence, and the relationship, if you like, between the two. And what does that mean? That means we actually arrive here from the unknown into this existence. Yes, we spend 9 months or so in the confine or safety, or however you want to describe it, of the womb. And prior to that, there is no known us. We come, as it were, from the unknown, from the what I would call the unconditional. And in that's where we return to the unknown. We don't know what awaits us when we exit this mortal coil, this existence. Meanwhile, what happens is, as soon as we arrive, conditioning, the conditional, it's called conditioning because it's conditional. It's taking a set of conditions and sort of imprinting them, installing them, if you will, in us as empty vessels, or as empty as we know. We're never completely empty. Even when we arrive, we're open. There is an openness, but there's also the what's carried in our DNA, what's carried, I don't know about previous lives. I don't really talk about that so much. But we arrive here pretty empty in so many ways, apart from the DNA, the sort of, what is carried from the imprint that happens upon us through astrology and through ancestry, if you like. But really, the main bulk of the conditioning happens when we arrive, and really pretty quickly, I would say, and by mother and father, brother, sister, family, and then in the larger outer circle would happen with the environment. Let's just call it religion, society, culture, school, all of these kind of things. But really the primary conditionality that we learn is from mother and father, mummy, daddy. And, I was talking about how we carry that conditionality, that bargaining, if you like, the transactional, the conditionality, the conditional way of relating to these figures, because it happens, if you imagine, if you remember, if you can't even remember, I bet, how early the imprinting happened. Think about it. When did the imprinting happen? I mean, maybe there was some unconditional love at first. Maybe there was some unconditional love throughout on a certain level. But it's never just unconditional love, because everybody, every mother and father, as far as we know, unless you're born to enlightened parents, every mother and father is conditioned themselves. Unconscious conditioning. really carried forward from generation to generation. And this conditionality is mildly suspended maybe when the newborn arrives, and there's just a kind of bliss. But pretty soon there's the behavioral stuff that steps in, because they're trying to get you to sleep, and they're trying to get you to pee and poop in the right place. They're trying to get you to eat the right food. They're trying to do all of this kind of stuff, and it's up to them to help you or condition you to fit in to the matrix of the family unit, such as it is. So the expectation and the demand or the necessity is for them unconsciously to modify your behavior, and for you to unconsciously see what's happening, or to feel, not see, that's too aware, but to feel what's happening and to start to modify your behavior according to the rules that you perceive. And that will mean that if Johnny does this, he's a good boy. If Jilly does that, she's a bad girl, and so you don't do it again. Do you do good, you get this, you don't bad. I'm not making any value judgments here, really. I'm just talking about, what I see as the way that it is. And we inherit those, and they become, all but hardwired. They become imprinted upon us, and they will easily become part of the governing principle of our lives. The feelings and beliefs that we have that navigate us throughout life. We often with the intent and the aim of compensating for what we didn't get back then, or the lack of love that we got back then, the lack of self-worth that we learned back there, and then we go out into the world and we've got these unconscious beliefs, and we start strategizing and maneuvering our way through life in order to get these things that we think we're empty of: love, fulfillment, worth, validation, attention. Usually comes down to love, really, for unconditional. I really believe that ultimately, on the deepest psychological, emotional, existential level, that we're really searching this world for unconditional love. I really feel that somehow, somewhere deeper down in us, we're searching for unconditionality. It's what we're familiar with because it's where we come from. It's what we arrived as. It's what many of us experienced in the womb, because our needs were met, mostly. We were taken care of, we were looked after, we were safe, we were fed, there was a heartbeat, and there was the essence or the primal texture on the unconscious level of love, pure unconditional love. Not for everybody, of course. Some people have torrid times in the womb, but mostly there's that feeling. And then we enter the world of form, and then we enter the world of conditionality, and all love becomes based on behavior, mostly. Again, it's hard to speak in absolutes, but that's what we start to learn, is this behavior doesn't get love, this behavior does get love. Oh, I must need love, yeah? I must have to do something in order to get the love that I feel that I'm not either feeling, knowing, or is being reflected back to me that I'm not worthy of it. This is a big root of our issues, is unworthiness, because we tend to search for unworthiness. But that we search for worthiness, but a large part of that search for worthiness is a search for unconditional love. Even the spiritual search can easily, if you really deeply think about it, be a search for unconditional love, because the search for unconditional awareness is like this with unconditional love. It ends up being the same thing. Search for unconditionality. If you take awareness out of it, you take love out of it, it's the search for unconditionality. Where do we come from? Well, we come from the unconditional. We presume, the unknown, and the unknown probably is unconditional, maybe, And so, what I'm kind of getting to is that all this belief that we carry in our unworthiness, all this way that we search the world to try and fill the gap that we imagine we suffer from, all of this kind of replicating of the mother and father games, strategies of behavioral modification, of unworthiness, of bartering for love, withholding love, of all of that kind of stuff. All of these happen on the conditional level, on the behavioral level, and it's hard to imagine really how they're going to be fixed on that level, because that's all the level of the false self, that's all the level of the self that's arrived in this existence as this personality, as this entity, and then it starts trying to transact and trade to get its worthiness, to get its kicks, to get its needs, to get its to feel whole again. You can't feel whole again because the personality self will never feel whole. Impossible in so many ways. It might feel pretty good, but it will never really know wholeness, because what we have to do is to go one step back to consciousness, go one step back to the unconditional nature of us, which is not harmed, which is not conditioned, which is not transactionable, which cannot be damaged, cannot be taken away, cannot be broken, is essential. By essential, it means it's there. It's not fixed, but it can't be changed in a sense. It is who we really are. It is what we really are, rather than who we really are. We are love. Our essence is love. Our essence is the unconditional love that we came from and we return to, and what we are while we're here. And remembering that and knowing that kind of somehow loosens the grip of us thinking we have to do so many things or do so much, mostly that we don't know really what it is, in order to feel worthy. We already are worthy. The search for worthiness on this level is kind of going to go backwards and forwards, because everything on this level of self goes backwards and forwards. But that's not where worthiness is. Worthiness is down here, because it's essential. It's the root of us. We're divine beings. And then on top of that, we enter the conditional world. I saw this and I realized that if I was going to search in the conditional world for my happiness, peace, equanimity, grace and love, I was going to find it and lose it, and find it and lose it, and find it and lose it forever. So I got wise and somehow had the realization that, those qualities, equanimity, grace, peace, freedom and love, were not found on that level. They're essential to my nature. And so I began to realize that the more I can just inhabit my essential nature of love, equanimity, peace, grace, then the movement on the surface of worthiness, unworthiness, love, not love, got to do this, don't want this. You know, the whole transactional way of being starts to become irrelevant. Starts to become, you know, less, you know, kind of intense, less absolute, if you like. It's not absolute. It just became less important. Became like the flotsam and jetsam of the movement of the human being. It's not denying. You see what I'm saying? I'm not denying the human experience. I'm just putting it into context. To put the human into context with the divine, if you like, so that we can be in the world. This is what it is. To be in the world, to recognize that in the world there's a dance of duality, a dance of polarities, but to not be of the world, because my essence is not of the world. My essence is of the totality, the unconditionality. I was love when I was born, I was love when I was here, and I am love when I'm leaving. It's all the same. There is only union. And to kind of, to want to touch that again, to want to know that again, is a great longing to reconnect and remember our God nature, our divine God nature, because it hasn't really left us. We've got just a terrible case of amnesia because the level of conditioning is so strong, it's so powerful that it tells us who we are, and we believe it. We believe it, hook, line and sinker. We believe it because it's very convincing. And to a certain extent we are playing in the play, in the Leela. But if we forget completely our God essence, our God nature, then we end up in suffering, yeah? Because we try and fix ourselves on the level of form. And we can never fix ourselves on the level of form. It just can't really happen. You can get a long way, but you're still going to arrive at the door where you know, one day you feel good and your value rises, and one day you feel bad and your value diminishes. And what I'm saying is that doesn't really matter. You can go with that and you can play that, but if you want to rest, if you like, in the eternal essence of your being, you have to return and remember and plant your feet firmly in and take root in your God essence as the unconditional love that you truly are. That's what I was trying to talk about in my video up the hill when I was extremely cold the other morning. So I hope this speaks to you. Yeah, I hope it speaks to you. May you be well, may you be blessed, and remember your eternal nature as love.